Today we're going to make a baba ghanoush. That's a Middle Eastern dish made with eggplant, tahini, that's a sesame paste, and a number of spices. And you normally serve it with like pita chips. This comes out really good, and when you make it, it looks something like this. It's pretty remarkable, very tasty, lovely dish. I think you'll enjoy it. So let's go through how we make it. Well, the answer is pretty simple. If you go to any store or any market and you happen to find baba ghanoush, it's a little pricey for what it is. It's actually much more cost effective to make it yourself at home. So we started making it at home this way, and it's really pretty good. You can make it with all different kinds of eggplant. We started with some baby eggplant this time, and what you need to do is you need to grill it. You need to get some char on the outside so you can remove the skin, and the inside will cook up thoroughly. As you can see, these are starting to cook through a little bit. You can see the skin's mottling a little, and some of it's pulling away. But that means that it's starting to cook. Now, if you wanted to, you could smoke it, and that would give it a much nicer flavor. You could actually put it in a smoker, put some smoke around it, and get it all smoky and nice. It gets a little bit of the smoky flavor this way. This time I just chose to do it on the grill so it would get the charring, but not so much of the smoking. In any event, what you want to do is make sure that it's cooked all the way through. It's going to change color. You can feel the skin kind of loosening up on it, and once that's ready, then you can take it off. I like to stand them up on the side just to make sure that bottom part of the eggplant gets cooked thoroughly. Otherwise, you get this sort of rough piece in there that you have to deal with. Once they're done, you take them off the grill and you go ahead and peel them. They should peel fairly easily. If you let them sit for a little while, they'll start to separate from whatever skin is left, and you'll just be able to pull the skin off. Now, of course, you could eat the skin, so you could go ahead and puree that too. I like to peel them. I just think it comes out a little better in terms of texture, so I go ahead and I peel them. It just takes a couple of minutes. In fact, peeling all 4 of these took less than 3 minutes. So really pretty straightforward and simple. I'll speed this up a little bit for you here so you don't have to watch all of them being skinned. But the idea is, once they're skinned, you can see how they kind of come together. They're very soft, and you kind of get this nice texture, and that's going to work really well in this dish. A couple of times there's a little piece that's stuck on there, and you might have to pull it off just a little bit more, but mostly it comes off pretty easily. As it's cooking, the skin just starts to separate from the flesh of the eggplant a little bit, so it's actually pretty easy to work with. So here we've got the eggplant, and you can see how just how squishy it is and how it looks. I'm going to go ahead and just pull it apart a little just so you can see it. It's very simple, right? Very easy. Leave all the seeds in. Everything else stays there. We just go ahead and we just pull the skin off. This one worked a little bit easier. The second one was a lot faster to pull off. And then I went through the third and the fourth one and just continued to pull the skins off. What you want is a nice eggplant. You can use many different kinds of eggplant that you may find. So you can try some different things. There's this traditional kind of baby eggplant. There's the larger eggplant. It's more of an Italian style. You have the Chinese style eggplant, which are the long purple ones. Any of them work. It depends on what kind of a flavor you want to have in it as to which one you're going to use. So you go ahead and pick the eggplant, go ahead and grill it, make some great flavor on it. If you don't have a grill, you could throw it in the oven and bake it. That's an option as well. Once they're done, I'm going to go ahead and mash them up. Mashing them up makes them really nice and soft so that I can start mixing them together. I'm going to use the food processor in a minute anyway, but I like to go ahead and just give them a little mash so I can start getting all the ingredients mixed together and married together. And it takes out the bigger pieces. As you can see, this is like shredded. You could put it not in the food processor if you want and just do it this way if you like a little more textured baba ghanoush, if you want to have a little more stringiness to it. I like to do it in the food processor at least part of the way so it gets a little creaminess to it. Now, the first ingredient we're going to add is tahini. What's tahini? Well, it's really just sesame seeds. That's it. They've been ground up into a paste. The better quality tahini you use, the better the actual overall dish is going to come out. So I'm going to use a couple of tablespoons of tahini here. I've got about 2.5 pounds to 3 pounds of eggplant that's been cooked. So I'm going to use about an equivalent amount, that number of tablespoons. So it's going to be about 3 tablespoons of tahini I'm going to put in there. As you can see, it's kind of liquidy. That works pretty well. Tahini works in a lot of different things. We use it for a lot of dishes. It's got a nice flavor to it, similar to peanut butter, though not really peanut butter in that way. Just sort of fits in with that sort of profile, that flavor profile and sort of the way it tastes in your mouth. So I've got about 3 of these in here, and I'm sorry, I actually said I had 3 eggplant. I actually have 4, but I'm using 3 tablespoons. I probably could have used a little bit more, but that's okay. You want the juice of about one lemon to go in here. And the lemon is going to add a lot of flavor to it and add some body that gives it that sort of bite that makes it really nice. So those are the 2 main ingredients. That and olive oil are really what you're going to put in here. Now what you do from there is up to you. I like to use a little bit of salt. So here's just a little bit of salt I'm going to put in there. I actually correct the seasoning later when we add a little bit more salt, but you get the idea. It's just a little bit of salt we're putting in there just to bring out the flavors just a bit. Now this is a smoked salt we're using, so it gives it just a little bit more flavor. Next, I'm going to put an equivalent amount of cumin in there. The cumin adds a little bit of extra flavor. And then I'm going to go on and I'm going to add my olive oil. Now, olive oil, I like to use about a tablespoon of olive oil for this. It just gives it a nice sort of rounded out body. Next, I'm going to use some liquid smoke. Now, liquid smoke, this is something that I'm kind of on the fence about using, but I think this one in the natural form, where it's just the smoke and no other chemicals, is okay to use. So I'll go ahead and sprinkle a couple of drops in here and just get a little flavor. Now, if I had smoked it on the grill instead of actually grilling it the way I did, I probably wouldn't have to use the liquid smoke. It would already have that smokiness, but you want that smokiness. It's kind of important to the overall dish. So I'll go ahead and mash a little more just to make sure that it kind of comes together so I've got all the flavors in there. Now, I also like to add some garlic. Roasted garlic is my favorite way to go on this dish. Actually, roasted garlic is awesome anyway. So as you can see, I've roasted some garlic here, and I'm going to take one of these cloves of garlic and I'm going to use it. So I'm going to go ahead and take the one, and we'll pull the actual cloves out, put them in the dish, and we can kind of mix those in as well. I find that roasted garlic just adds something to it. It really gives a nice flavor. It kind of rounds it out a lot more. It's more than just the flavors of the eggplant and a couple of spices. Now it's got a little bit of garlic that just really gives it something nice. So once I've got the garlic all out of my the paper that it comes in, that it grows in, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get it ready to go to the food processor. So here's where you just kind of put it together and pull your garlic out, and it looks really good. It's starting to come together nicely. You can see how it's starting to work. Baba ganoush is kind of one of those interesting flavor combinations that you get, where you get some really neat flavors coming together. So all my garlic's in there. You can see that. Those are so good. I love eating just roasted garlic. It's really good that way. And now I'm going to go ahead and move it to the food processor. The food processor will allow me to puree it and make a finer sort of material out of it. Instead of being the stringy thing, I'm going to have a lot more smooth texture that just goes a lot better. It can easily be scooped up by a pita or scooped out and put on something if I want to. So this is kind of one of those important moments where you decide I'm going to use the food processor. We talked about it a little bit because not using it gives you some nice stringy texture, which is also good, but I prefer to actually use it and get a little more out of it. So we'll just pulse it a few times until it starts to come together and smooth out a little bit. You don't want it to be completely smooth. You want it to have a few chunks in it. Now I'm going to correct the seasoning too. We took a quick taste and it felt like it needed a little more lemon. So we'll go ahead and add that in, and then you can see how the texture looks on it. Then we're going to go ahead and close it up and pulse it a little more just to give it a little more flavor. So that lemon will now incorporate into the whole thing. So that comes out kind of nice that way. You start to get this texture, you get all the flavors mixed together. The longer you let it sit, the more the flavors come together too. So now that I've got it a little further along, I taste it again and I realize it needs just a little something more. So I'm going to actually add a little more olive oil just to give it a little more body. And I'm going to add a little bit more liquid smoke. It just needs a little more smokiness. There's not quite enough in there to give it all the flavor. And I'm actually going to add an ingredient of an element of smoked paprika. I think the smoked paprika adds something else to it. It's always kind of nice to have in there. The paprika just gives it a little hint of spice, but the smokiness actually comes out through the dish. So between those two things, I'm going to get a little bit more flavor. So there you go. Those are the ingredients I'm going to put in. I'm just going to close it up one more time and pulse it a little bit longer just to bring those things together. And yes, I know it's not me doing the work here. It's actually my wife. Just so we're clear, those aren't my hands. But it comes together really well when you have these ingredients coming in there. So now we've got it basically ready. This is what we want it to look like. It looks like almost a paste, and I'm going to go ahead and put it into a bowl. And there you go. You've got some nice baba ganoush. It's this lovely, succulent, sort of spicy, tangy. It's got an umami going on there with eggplant. And it really is something quite delicious. And like I said, take a pita chip and you can serve it with it and you get something that's really, really good. So that's baba ganoush, my style. I hope you like it. Hope you try it.